Here you guys go, right here, take a look. It's moving without needing to, so I guess it's kind of moving under a power.
Welcome back to the Intensive Car Unit, where I'm your host, the Hobbling Nurse. In the first episode, we talked about the garage build, the design, the plan, the layout, and everything like that, but we didn't really get talking about the patients in this show itself. Now, the first patient that we're actually going to get really involved and down and dirty with is my Maserati Quattroporte that I've got here. With that being said, the goals and designs of that, why I'm choosing this car to start with for a power plant for my Subaru BRZ Scion FRS Twin build. We'll get into the whole nitty gritty of that here in just a minute. But before I get going too far, I just want to thank you for watching. Now, let's talk about why I am doing this swap. I wanted a fun, easy to access vehicle that still had good power. Now, some of you guys out there are saying, why don't you LS swap it? Well, we'll get to that. We'll get into the rule set and all that just briefly, just so you guys have an idea on what I'm working with and what I'm dealing with. So you have the opportunity to understand the insanity behind my choices for this whole project. All right, so now that we've talked about the what we're doing, just briefly, we're gonna talk more in depth about the why. I got into SCCA time trials about 4 or 5 years ago and just fell in love with the overall program. The tracks that we get to run, the opportunities that we have to run, the time on track is pretty good for the cost and everything. And with that, you've got categories that break every car down into their various spot, and then you've got classes, that further break it down to make it more, I don't want to say competitive, but to get you in like car comparisons, we'll say. There's 4 categories in the SCCA time trials. You've got Sport, Tuner, Max, and Unlimited. Sport's your stock street cars, you can buy them off the showroom, do a little bit of work, maybe wider wheels and tires, sway bars, that stuff. And that's kind of the limitation of it. Anything you can bolt on in an afternoon with limited tools is the goal for that class. Tuner's a step up from that, and in the tuner class it's more like coilovers, headers, ECU tuning, and all sorts of other things like that that allow you a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more fun that you could not normally do in the sport class. The Max class, it's a step above that. It's to build the ultimate dream street car, if you will. You can either build it or buy it kind of idea. And then the Unlimited is a whole other ballgame. It's a very limited rule set. My goal is to be in the Max class, or the Max category. Now, in the Max category, there are 5 separate classes. 5 being the slowest, or slow is a mean word to say, but it's for the purpose of smaller displacement vehicles. 1 being the faster with the bigger displacement engines. So I discussed about wanting to have a V8 FRS or Subaru Twin or whatever you want to call it, because 1, it's a fun chassis, it's easy to get into, they're not that expensive to purchase, they're fairly reliable, and they are an absolute blast on track, minus 1 little aspect, and the fact that they can't get out of their own way on straightaways. Any of you who have driven on them on track know exactly what I'm talking about. You can turbo them, and it makes them a little bit better, but even with a high boost pulley and stuff like that, you're still only getting about 300 horsepower to the tires, and that kind of defeats the purpose of it. Then you're chasing reliability issues, and that's not really what I'm looking for. I want a V8, I want something that's about 2,700-ish pounds or so, and that I can have an absolute blast with. So that's the whole design behind that. Now, if we look at the SCCA category classing for the Max category, with the V8 would put me in 1 of 3 classes. Max 1, you'll look up here and you'll see that it's a 6.4 liter displacement, unmodified, and a minimum of 2,500 pounds, or 95% of the curb weight of the vehicle, including the driver, whichever is higher. Max 2, same 6.4 liter OE displacement, unmodified, but 2,800 pounds, which is the factory weight for a Scion FRS. And then Max 3 is naturally aspirated up to 4.5 liters, unmodified displacement, and 2,500 pounds, or the 95% rule. So where does that put me? For the Scion FRS, it's a 2,800 pound car, give or take a little bit. The 95% rule puts it at 2,660 pounds, give or take. Again, I'm just being very general for this. The engine in the Maserati is a 4.2 liter V8, making about 400 horsepower. Now you're sitting here thinking, well, yeah, but you could run an engine from X manufacturer. Well, there's actually more reasons behind that. I could LS swap it, jump into Max 2, and have a blast. Factory weight, it's right there about the 95% rule. It would be a blast. The disadvantage of that class would be I'm stuck going up against C5 Corvettes, Porsche GT2s, GT3s, NA cars. And I would get absolutely slaughtered in that class with this car. So that's kind of the idea behind all of that. Okay, so that's the rule set that I'm working with, just to start, just to give you a nice base generic painting of what we're working with. Some of you guys might be saying, hey, just do an LS, run in Max 2 and that'd be awesome, or Max 1, and you could really run. Well, the problem is at that point in time, I'm running up against Corvettes, Porsche GT3s, 996 and 997s, among many other cars that would be hitting well above the Scion's weight limit, weight class, we'll say. And now some of you guys are like, yeah, do it, like fight the man, like it'd be awesome. I agree, but I want to actually have some fun with this. I want to do something a little bit different, and I'll actually get to the reason why this engine choice is actually a cheaper option overall than buying an LS, or one of the other engines I was looking at was probably a BMW, was it the S58 out of the E90 M3. Another great option, but it would have been under the displacement of 4.5 liters, would have made 400 horsepower, actually above 400 horsepower, and would be pretty cool. The main reason why I didn't choose that one is weight. That engine bare is about 475 pounds. The F136 in this engine weighs in at about 415 to 420 is what I've been finding out. We'll actually get it out, get it on a scale, get it weighed, and let you know how accurate that number actually is. Now, another reason for the F136 over an LS or the BMW V8 is this car back in 2007 came with a dry sump oiling system from the factory. Now, for me to dry sump an LS, you're talking upwards of $4,000 to $7,000. To do it for a BMW, I'd have to have it probably custom built. And I mean, we're just lighting money on fire at that point in time, and we don't even have a competitive car yet that we're aware of. So that's the reason why I'm choosing this engine over another option and everything else. And I mean, besides, I got this whole car for $5,000. Like, that's a steal. Plans of parts I'm going to use: Maserati wheels, or not the wheels, sorry, the hubs, the bearings, the brakes, all of that stuff. I'm planning on using the transmission, which this one is the F1 transmission, similar to the Ferrari F430, 360. It is a manual transmission that is robotically controlled or hydraulically controlled with a computer doing all the work. It is a transaxle. So another reason why I didn't go with the LS option was because I didn't want all that weight on the front end of the car. I want to try and move some of that weight more to the back so I get a little bit more power down when I'm driving it. Nothing like having a 160, 170 pound manual transmission over the front end of the car when the Scion transmission weighs about 80 pounds. So again, I'm being weight conscious on this, and I'm also trying to help adjust some of the weight distribution on this car. And yes, it's going to be a lot of work, but you know what? That's what we're here for. So please enjoy. So now that I've gone over the basics and everything of the choice of engine, the choice of my base vehicle, my FRS, what do you say we get tearing into this car already, right? Because that's what you guys are really here for, is to watch me cut this thing apart. So let's do it.